War in Ukraine. Russia today launched one of its largest and deadliest missile attacks in weeks, hitting targets across the country. My next guest is on the ground in Kyiv. Christina Katrakis is an ambassador with the Foundation for United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Christina, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Arti.
First, I want to ask you how you're doing.
Well, not so brilliant, do I? Well, the whole night went basically sleepless because of the air raid alerts, and then, around 5 a.m., our 7-year-old son, Mark, was really shaken because the missile hit right next to our house in Holosivsky district. So it was really loud. I mean, the whole house was trembling. So Mark was really shook up, and we spent the remainder of the night and morning in our bomb shelter. And basically, Russians used all kinds of missiles and drones today. I mean, we haven't seen anything like that before. They must really love us. So that was quite a night and quite a morning.
So you mentioned that your 7-year-old son was with you at this time. I'm wondering how he's doing. You mentioned that he was quite shaken, as one expects he would be.
Yeah, well, by now it's been over a year for him living in the war and with the war. And actually to stay here was his choice. He said, Mom and Dad, as long as we're together and we're here and we're helping people, we're okay. I want to stay, because we did ask him if he would rather leave or one of us would leave, because my husband was a crisis coordinator for the Foundation for United Nations, SDG. But Mark really felt that we should stay all together. And I'm glad we did, because that gives a great sense of family to a child at the time of war. Separation is really very hard on kids, and many families are being broken away by it. He's a little hero. He goes with us everywhere. He loads, unloads trucks. He brings aid to kids. He's very proud of it. He's very proud that he's pitching in and helping. So that's a major part of who he is right now and what he does. And he's very conscientious of that.
It sounds like you've got a pretty amazing young son with you right now, adapting, of course, to an incredibly difficult situation. You started by telling us that essentially these strikes even came close to where you're staying. How unusual is that?
Well, really not, because the last major strikes like that on Kyiv happened on both sides from our house. I guess we're like in this Bermuda Triangle, I don't know. And one of them actually destroyed Mark's school and bomb shelter, and he's still not able to go to school. So we're still doing, online homeschooling for that reason. So that was really close. And the other missile fell across from our house in Protasev's Yard. That was for New Year's greeting from Russia. So we're kind of getting used to this, but of course, every time it shakes you, and every time it reminds you that this is a high time to group and act, rather than, watch Ukrainians shield the rest of the world with their own bodies and their own cities and the innocent lives of their women and children. And, we are Americans, and, being an American, Mark feels that this is his duty, and I'm sure that Canadians will feel the same way as well, and if you decide to stay and wait until the stair comes to you, rest assured it will come. So it's time to act, and that's my plea to the world, that we must act. We must, help Ukraine more with air defense. The Ukrainian air defense worked miracles, and it did a great job with very little resources today. Shooting down 34 out of 48 missiles, but still the remainder hit. And, electric power station plant was actually hit. That's the one near us.
So with this, with these sort of this military escalation that, of course, the world is witnessing and watching happen, when we're talking about this most recent attack, how concerned are you about perhaps this new strategy that's being used by Russia?
Well, Russia is using the most cowardly strategy. It's the strategy when you're losing and you cannot progress on the battlefield, like military, like real soldiers. What you do is you bomb cities and innocent civilians. And once again, we're seeing their targets. Their targets is infrastructure and innocent civilians. So the tactics of cowardliness, is the easiest tactics. But the world has to realize that this is not the war between Russia and Ukraine. This is a war between terror and the rest of the world, and it must act and step in to stop the terror. That's as simple as that. And Ukraine right now needs air defense as much as possible and needs it now, but also it needs the world to unite and stand shoulder to shoulder to combat this terror. And our team, which is FFUN SDG, helpua.org. We're working on the front lines. In fact, our team just returned from the front lines of the Donetsk region, towns like Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, Liman. And what we saw is devastating. I mean, people are living without electricity, without water, without heat, in damaged buildings, apartment buildings, and they basically live permanently in basements.
It sounds, of course, the images don't do justice to how difficult this situation, of course, is. In the final 30 seconds I have with you, I'm just wondering if you could tell us what it is that you say to your son as he faces this very adult conflict as a 7-year-old in trying to comfort him.
I say that we will win, and the world will not let him down, and the world will not let us down. He still believes in superheroes, and I hope that superheroes will hear me and pitch in. A lot of Canadians did, such as Paul Pachowski and other people who helped our mission, and we're able to keep on helping people on the ground every day. So we just need to join and help, and we believe that superheroes are out there, and that's the major time to act and help. So as long as he feels that he's not alone, that's what gives him strength. And I plead to Canada to not leave Ukraine alone.
Christina, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Christina Katrakis in Kyiv.